With AJ Allmendinger, driver of the number 47 Kroger Click List Chevrolet for JTG Doherty Racing. AJ, this track, seems to suit you well. What is it about the paperclip here that suits your driving style and the way you race?
I think it's a racetrack that when I first started, I had no clue how to get around, and just over the years trying to learn the techniques, and it's somewhat like a road course in the sense of the way you brake and some of the stuff you can do with the throttle and things like that. A driver can make a bit of a difference here. So more than anything, just trying to learn the techniques. You still got to have a great race car. The last couple of years, we've had a good setup and been able to use it to have some pretty good runs. And it's just a tough race. It's one of those races that you can't really let your guard down mentally for 500 laps. Anything can happen. Usually get a late race restart, so a racetrack that's been tough, but over the last couple of years been really good for us, and hopefully can have another good run because we definitely need it.
Okay, we're going to open the floor up for questions. If you have questions for AJ, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start here with Jeff here in the front.
By the way, Jeff, are you giving me the hug? Because I saw on the podcast you said I needed a hug. Hey, we can hug it out after this.
We'll go to Jeff and then to Jared.
Jeff Gluck from jeffgluck.com. AJ, I'm wondering if you feel like with the current environment, when they didn't penalize Kyle Busch for the punch, they didn't penalize Austin Dillon for his incident with the cold cluster, do you think that drivers are going to feel like they have more license to do something here than they normally would?
Well, I don't think I have a license to do anything, So it's one of those things I don't really try to think about. We just focus on trying to get better each weekend, and I've never really looked into how they penalize or why they penalize and the differences. I don't know. Maybe my last name's not the right name, so maybe that's why I got penalized so hard. But in the end, you can't control it. You just go do your job. For our race team, I thought the West Coast we learned a lot of stuff, although the results maybe didn't show it. Fontana we had a better run. But stuff happens. You can only do what you can do and try to get better. So that's what we're trying to do right now is focus on that. We know we're in a big hole, and the good thing is we don't have to look at points because we know we're really far down in them. So we just got to go out there and get some good finishes and hopefully get a win.
Go next to Jared and then to Bob.
Yeah, Jared Turner, Edge Set Marketing. AJ, how do you think stage racing, particularly on the road courses and especially at Sonoma, is going to affect things from both a driver standpoint and from an entertainment standpoint for the fans?
It's when we get to Sonoma, I haven't even really looked at what the stages look like at Sonoma. So when we get to Sonoma, a place like that, kind of look at what those stages are and how that's going to play out for tires. Sonoma especially is always that argument between a 2 or 3 stop race, so I think that probably takes that away at least because when you're going to have a caution at least when it comes to the stages. But I'll worry about that when we get there. Tires at Sonoma are always going to be important. Trying to maintain the rear tires, kind of like here at Martinsville, same thing. So that's not going to really change how you race. You know that you got to save the rear tires, and if you can do that, you're going to have a pretty good race car. But when it comes to Sonoma. When we get there, I'll kind of worry about that.
Go next to Bob.
Bob Hockris, ESPN. Have you used a biometric device, and have you learned you learned anything from it?
A what?
The biometric device, the heart monitor. It's the wrist.
It's too much technology for me, Bob.
Okay, so you're not wearing the.
No.
Okay.
No, I know when it's hot in the race car. I can tell you that. I can tell you my body's
You know your heartbeat.
Yeah, I can tell you my body's really hot. In the Phoenix, it was really hot. I haven't got to that type of technology yet. This doesn't happen by itself, Bob. You see this? This takes work, so, I got you.
Another one of the well-oiled machines of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series.
Yes.
That's right. Go next to Kenny.
Kenny Bruce with NASCAR.com. AJ, if you guys don't get on the track today, does that make a big difference? Does it make more of a difference not being able to practice at Martinsville as opposed to like a Texas, or does that have any impact on it?
I'm going to tell you, we really are going to need to practice at Texas. Just throwing that out there. No, I more want to get on the racetrack to qualify. I don't want to start 30th on Sunday, so that's a bigger deal. I think it really comes down to today. Tomorrow, at least when I looked at it, looks pretty good. Martinsville is a place usually that Friday practice is you can run laps for race trim, but you're really focused on outright qualifying, and this place doesn't really rubber up until you get some heat in the racetrack and you get a lot of cars on Saturday. So I don't think if we didn't practice today is going to mess up kind of race trim practice, because you don't really get a general idea of what your car's going to do until about halfway through Saturday when the rubber finally kind of starts to build up. And being a new right side tire, from what I've heard, you got to really figure out if it is going to rubber up. We've had tires here in the past that really build rubber on the racetrack, and we've had at times where the track looks clear and it just kind of powders. So I think that's more is Saturday's used for that. I just, for our race team, I want to get on the racetrack to be able to try to qualify.
We'll go next to Chris Knight and then to Caleb.
Chris Knight, catchfence.com. AJ, I was just curious if going to two teams has contributed to the team's performance woes this season.
You probably have to ask Tad and Ernie, Ernie Cope, and get a general idea of inside the shop. I don't think so. I think it's more this aero package. For our team like ours, every time NASCAR changes the aero package, it's tough because we don't have any wind tunnel time, really. So at times we're going out there and testing, and that's kind of what the last 3 weeks have been, is really trying to test on, figure out what type of setup this aero package is. To me, at least for our race team, this package is way different than the last couple of years, where they took off some downforce, but it seemed like generally the setup was still the same. This aero package seems so front heavy on downforce compared to rear, even though they've taken off both ends. They've taken a lot off the rear, and that's where for our race cars we've really struggled is figuring out that happy medium of still having some rear grip in the race car, but getting it to turn through the middle of the corner. So, we had brand new. Every car's been brand new. It's not like we're using older stuff because we brought in a second car. Both sets of teams have brand new race cars. Tad and Jody have put the effort in. We have great sponsors. I think it's just this aero package and us not having any wind tunnel time to figure it out, and we're having to figure it out on the fly on the racetrack. So, as I said, the West Coast swing results-wise was not great, but what we learned from basically Atlanta to last week was a big difference in setups. So that's where we're working hard on and trying to figure out. But in the end, both of our cars have been about the same. Chris and I, it's been nice for me with struggling to have Chris there to be able to bounce ideas off him and see what he feels. So that's helped a lot for me in general. So we both just got to be better. And to me, I think the field's gotten tougher throughout the middle of the field. If you look at it, adding a furniture row car is built another car in there. Obviously, Ganassi's a lot faster this year. The Roush cars have gotten better. So everybody's just stepped up. We need to do the same and keep fighting and really just keep grinding away. That's what's tough about it. You got to keep grinding and just keep getting better.
We're going to go next to your back right to Caleb.
Caleb Whistler, Speedway Digest. 5 races into the season, the eyeball test of the aero package is not looking good, and the number of quality passes for the top 15 haven't looked good. What changes would you like to see NASCAR make potentially later on in the year or for next year?
I'd just like them to stop changing stuff. I mean, it's tough on us. I thought right at the end of last year, I think we had 6 top 10s in 8 races, and we'd finally kind of gotten a feel of the aero package of what we need and had some good race cars. When it came to setup and knowing how we wanted to set them up, and you keep changing. I think that's what's tough here. Is right away we all jump to conclusions that it's not good enough. We got to change again, and you just got to give teams time. The bigger teams, every time you change an aero package, the bigger teams are gonna succeed in that because they have the wind tunnel time. So you would think it would bring the field closer. Everybody's starting over again. Well, it just separates the field even more because the bigger teams have the more resources to go wind tunnel test and figure out the aero package a lot quicker than other teams do. So I think we all just need to, it's 5 races. We all just need to calm down a little bit and give it a whole year and see if it's working or not, then make a decision after that. But we don't need to jump to that conclusion after 5 races.
We're going to come up front to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. You're getting Randall back after having him out the last 3 races. What kind of an impact is it when the crew chief isn't there? Obviously, some other teams here this weekend will be without it. And do you think it would be what kind of an impact it might have on teams here compared to what you had to go through the bigger tracks?
You know, the bigger race teams definitely have more resources and more people inside to kind of to fill those places up. But you know, Randall being out was a difficult challenge, but Ernie Cope did a fantastic job, and obviously Ernie's got the experience level to know how to do it. And I felt like over those 3 races, like our practices went really well, and the stuff that we learned was good throughout those 3 races. So, you know, having Randall back is definitely going to help, but I didn't feel like we were hindered a lot. That was the reason why we struggled, was the fact that just Randall wasn't there. You know, we're just struggling because we haven't figured out the aero package yet. So, you know, but it's going to be nice to have him back and for sure allow him to get back to the racetrack. You could kind of see, you know, back at the shop, he was kind of chomping at the bit. So this is a place that he loves. We've had good success here, and this racetrack just to him personally means a lot. So I think this is a good racetrack for him to come back at. Yeah, I mean, he definitely kept up with it. I was able to call him after every session and kind of talk to him about it. But you know, when Ernie was running, it was Ernie's race car. He was setting it up. He was doing what he wanted, and Ernie did an amazing job. Honestly, I mean, we've learned a lot in the 3 races, and it's I know it's tough to see on the outside, and heck, sometimes on the inside it's tough to see when you just look at the result. But what Ernie did and all the stuff that we were able to try in 3 races and at least get an idea of which direction to go, we accomplished a lot of things that we needed to accomplish to carry us hopefully for the next 15, 20 races. So it's nice to have him back, but I'll just say that wasn't our issue of where we were running.
Do we have any additional questions for AJ? We'll go here to the right and then to Bob.
Charles Rourke, Star News. Of course, you know, we're looking at 70 years anniversary here at the Speedway. I know this Speedway's tough for you, but what do you like about coming here?
I mean, it's just a fun racetrack. It's unique. It's like a track that we don't go to. So anytime you can go to a racetrack like that, you know, for me is a lot of fun, and it's a challenge. The fan base here is awesome. You know, we get a big crowd here all the time. They're passionate about NASCAR racing. When we come here, it shows how much they appreciate us being here, and hopefully we show how much we appreciate the fans for showing up just for the great racing that we try to put on. And I mean, it's just it's a unique place. I mean, I love telling people, you know, friends of mine that have never been to a race or have only been to a couple, and I'm like, you have to come here because you don't really get the gist of it on TV until you walk in this and see how tiny this is, but how you pack 40 race cars on it, how you pack so many people into it, and just the history of it, like you said. So, you know, I didn't know much about this place when I first started NASCAR racing, and quickly, once I learned how to get around it, quickly appreciated what this sport has meant to this racetrack, and more importantly, what this racetrack has meant to the sport.
Bob?
Bob Hawkers, ESPN. At the NASCAR Hall of Fame, they opened up a petty exhibit in honor of Richard's 80th birthday. And you drove for Richard. He's still coming to the track. Does it surprise you at all that he's still coming to the track? And what does it mean to that team, the fact that he is around?
Yeah, I remember asking Richard. I said, "Why do you do this every weekend? You know, every weekend? Why are you here?" And I never really thought of it until he said it. Was the fact he said, what else have I ever done in my life? I mean, this is all I've ever done since I was born is come to a racetrack. And he's like, I have nothing else to do. So, and, you know, it was kind of eerie the way he said it, but he's like, you know, if I don't come here, what do I do? Just sit at home and pass away, you know? And this is the way he stays alive. And I appreciated that. And I didn't really think about it until he said it the way he said it. So it means a lot to that race team. When Richard shows up, you know, you can see everybody else kind of just they get a little bit more up in doing their job, and you know, having the king there, knowing he's done it all and everything that he probably could be doing other than this, and he still shows up to the racetrack every weekend. Him and Dale both. So it's it's cool to always see him here, and just, you know, it's I think everybody in the garage, whether you've worked for him before or you've never worked for him, just seeing the King walk through the garage every weekend is pretty special for the sport, and we appreciate it.
Well, AJ, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Hey guys, if you're bored, Kroger.com. Order your groceries online with ClickList, okay?